Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opus Well Style podcast. My name is Iván Watanabe. I'm here with my partner, Evan Wohl. Evan, good morning, my friend. How you doing?
Good morning. Just turned noon, so good afternoon.
Good
And
afternoon.
I'm excited for this one. Today, I'm going to be the expert, and you're going to be my patient, I
I
believe.
love it. I love it. I think that's a great way to go. So, today, as it stands on April 10th, right? I'm a family of three. We're expecting a fourth. So hopefully by the time this episode airs, we'll have a healthy baby boy
Mhm.
joining our family. And so, thought it would just be, a good idea to maybe document. Maybe this is just for me. Maybe this isn't.
Yes,
Maybe this isn't useless for or useful for any of our audience. Maybe this is simply for me. But what I thought we would do is just kind of like walk through some of the things that I've been thinking about approaching this second child, and then you as a four-time expert of
three
this.
time. I have
Three
three
time, three
kids.
time,
Three
sorry,
kids.
three-time expert of that. I was thinking about George.
You're
Three-time
thinking you're
expert
thinking
of
about
of of
what my
this.
wife would prefer, but not me.
And thinking about if you went through similar process and kind of how things shook out on the other end of it. So yeah, that's kind of what
I'm gonna have to go back in time in my memory. But I love the idea of, I know as a joke of like this is gonna help you more than anything. Right before the last 30 minutes, I was listening to our podcast on the legacy, and I don't
Yep.
listen to all of our podcasts that we post. I listen to some, but uh, I don't know. I was happened to open up YouTube, and it was right there, and I saw no views. I was like, oh no, so I gave it a view. But I was listening to it, and it was great. Like, and it really was just like authenticity about like what's going on in our lives. What do we care about? And I
Yep.
think that authenticity resonates with people. So I am sure there are going to be people who will find value in the conversation or find some laughter. We'll see.
I love it. Yeah, no, I hope so. It's funny. Like, so I've got a group friend chat, and we were having a conversation the other day. I said, "Hey guys, like, do you guys like have gasoline like stored in like containers at your house, or like, do you have like supplies of canned goods in your basement? Like, what do you guys do?" Like, and that's where my mind has gone. So one of my other friends said, like, "Dude, what are you waiting for the apocalypse?" I was like, "No,
Yeah.
not really." And the other one chimed in and said, "No, dude, he's about to have his second kid. He is getting into dad prepared,
Right.
provider, protector mode, and he's
Mhm.
trying to make sure that he's got all of his ducks in a row." And that's exactly what it was, right? Like, just starting to think of what do I need? Where am I going with this? Like, do I have, the things set up for the house? If the power goes out, are we going to like, that's where my mind is at the current moment.
Yeah, and it's going to keep bouncing around, as I'm sure you know. I love, I always reference books, but there was a book I read recently, Who Not How,
Yeah.
um, written by Dr. Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And I think this is a good example of there are a lot of different things that you will need in order to support your wife and kids, and not all of it needs to come from you.
Yeah.
You know what? Like we should all be continuing to do the things that our drive our mission and purpose, and this is part of it right here, right? But stocking the basement with canned goods, I don't know, maybe it's not a bad thing to do. I don't have like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing, but it's not a bad thing to do. But my point is, I think more than anything at this point, like about to have a second kid, probably I remember uh I had more anxiety going from two to three. But that was because our first was a pretty good baby. She didn't cry much. Our second cried a lot, but that's just baby specific, so don't be worried. Um, but the point is like you want people in your life, right? So you want to identify not just like daycare and nannies and au pair or whatever it may be, but like who else can help, whether it be family, neighbors, other people in your life, help with driving kids around and stuff like that. Like the more support you can build in your life, that's where like really the bang comes from.
Totally. And it's funny because, I probably heard this a million times. And I believe Emily Bishop referenced this on one of our previous podcasts, where she said, like, the ultimate not unspoken, parenting hack is family, right?
Yeah.
Just people being close by. I got the flu a couple of weeks back, and so did Mia. So I was a disaster. And my in-laws came in with like full hazmat suits to not get sick, but they like came in and
But
like
they
basically
came. Yeah.
took care of Mia, which was incredible. But I think, I don't know what it is this time around. I'm super excited and less stressed about the unknown because again, we've got one, and obviously every kid is different. My the funny thing is I'm least stressed about, or maybe not funny, but I'm least stressed about the things that I handle every day, right? Not worried
Hmm.
about the financials, not worried about the
Hmm.
estate plan. I'm not worried about, those things will kind of get updated. Um, I did move more cash into the account that comes, that my mortgage payment comes out of just in case, I don't know, something crazy happens and I need
Sure.
whatever, like just safety,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But this time for me, it's way more, and this could be a function of having a son. I'm way more concerned about, thoughtful around like raising a son. I'm petrified of messing that up. Like for my daughter, I've had conversation for my daughter, my thought process was just help build her self-esteem, make sure that she knows what her self-worth is, encourage her, empower her. For whatever reason, that came easier to me, maybe just as a girl dad. But raising a son today is very scary for me. And so I am uh that is what's really on my mind, right? Like, how do I make sure that I instill good values and all those other things? But maybe because, biologically, he's like a mini me as a
Right.
male. Like, I just feel like there are certain things that I want to try to instill. And there seems to be more pressure for me on that. I don't know if you felt the same way with Bodhi versus your daughter.
Um, it's definitely different. I mean, my daughter she's so sweet. Like she loves to cuddle and give me hugs and kisses and tells me I love you. And my son's, my youngest is 2.5. He barely knows what's going on, but my middle child who's 5, he's not so he doesn't show sweet emotion very often. Sometimes he does, and a lot of it happens when we fill out our nightly journal. I've talked about this in the past,
Yeah.
which I love. I highly recommend it. There's I forget the exact name of the book, but if you go on, I just went on Amazon and I just searched gratitude journal for kids, and there's one for boys and girls and a whole bunch of different ones, and they are awesome. And fortunately, my kids are really into it. Every night we do it. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes per kid, and they love it. And in that, what's interesting is in those 5 to 10 minutes, my son expresses to me more like sweet emotions than he does all day. Like this morning, he was walking out the door to go into the car, and I was like, "Bye, Parker. Love you. Have a great day." Nothing. Just like, and then that's like very common. Like if
Yeah,
I
you
say
just
it
kept it
to,
moving.
it's like, all right, whatever. Like I think that's what's going on. So it's like, okay, but I said that to my daughter, and then she always says, "Yeah, you too. Have a great day, Daddy." But when we filled out the journal, like he just does these sweet things. And so what one point is like the whole conversation of like imparting your values and the how you want to raise them. I think you could also just like take a break on that because none of that is going to be any
Mm.
relevant for 2 years, right? Like at least a year and a half, like until they develop some language and stuff like that. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's maybe I'm not the expert in this area, so maybe I'm wrong here, but once they start getting older and I also don't think like I just think that stuff comes naturally. Yeah, you need to be intentional about it and have conversations, and that's a good thing to like a quote unquote support group with your buddies on like have conversations about what are they doing with their kids and stuff like that. But the what's important to you is just going to come natural. Like if you see your son doing something that you don't love, like you don't need to read a book about that. You're just
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
identify it. And then then the question is like how do you change that habit, which is uh who knows, right? Like what do you like on the one hand you don't want to like push them too hard. And like, I'm sure all of our parents have made comments to us that we wish they hadn't, but you're just going to do the best you can. And
Yep.
I would worry less about that just because I think it comes naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally makes sense. I mean, I think, yeah, it's for whatever reason, I am less anxious, and that could be a function of going from 0 to 1 and just Joanna and I being super type A and having a baby come into our life and just completely disrupt it in a great way, right? In the
Hmm.
best way, but like completely changing it. Um, Also, Mia being born in COVID times where like we were trapped in the room
Yeah.
for 4 days or whatever, right? We couldn't go anywhere. Um, to today, it's just normal. It's like totally normal. Everything seems to be back to less of a health risk, health
Yeah.
concern. So I'm excited and sort of less anxious than I was the last time, but the anxiety seems to be a little bit different.
Well, it'll ramp up, right? When you guys go to the hospital. My Lori loves to ask couples who have multiple kids, what was harder, going from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, or she loves the 3 to 4 because we never got to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and I've heard lots of answers, and it's all different. There's obviously no consistent theme, and it's my take on it is it's just very much kid dependent. Like if you have a colicky kid who cries all night, doesn't matter if that's your first kid or third kid, whatever, that's just going to
Yeah.
be tough. And
Yeah.
and there's not much you could do about it, other than serenity now. But uh, just I think it's also like obviously such a sweet time, like videotaping when we brought our third home and seeing that interaction between my two older kids, because we were certain that going from 2 to 3 was, Lori wanted 4 kids and I didn't, so we compromised and went for 3. But because my second was a crier for like a lot, we got next to no sleep and cried for like the first few months of his life, and so I was just worried that it would be that again. And so we were mostly concerned about that, and that he would be jealous that he's all of a sudden not the center of attention. It's a very common parent concern.
Yep.
And we were both incredibly pleasantly surprised. One, because our third child was pretty great. He didn't, cry much, and he was a great baby. He was very happy. But our two older kids just like loved him so much. And when I talked about Parker not showing emotion, when we told him that Lori is pregnant, he's gonna have a little brother, he just came over and gave me a big hug, and it was one of the sweetest
That's
things.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm sure you'll never forget that, right?
Yeah, it was so
Yeah. No.
sweet. And he just like loves him like a big brother. They fight and everything, but like it was really nice to see that, as opposed to what we thought was going to happen, of he was going to get jealous and act out, and maybe he acted out in other ways, but that was because he was 3, not because of his younger brother.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think that sibling love is so I'm an only child, so I've never had this experience, but that sibling love is something that I want for my kids in the worst way.
Mm,
I saw something a few months back. I can't remember who it was for, but the guy was saying that his objective with his kids, if you're somebody talks bad about your sibling, you make sure you stick up for them. Now you guys can fight behind closed doors when you're
mm,
home, but when you're
mhm.
out there, like you guys are sticking up for each other and you're there and you have each other's back. And because someday mom and dad won't be here any longer, right? And you guys need to have each other's back. You need to be best friends. And my hope and my wish for them is to be that support system for each other, forever and for always, even when they're ganging up on us, and when when they're giving us a hard time. I'd much prefer that they band together against Joanna and I than to be fighting amongst each other. Besides the normal sort of bickering, and that's my true like wish, right? Who knows how much control we will have over
Yeah.
that, but That is a major, major objective of mine. I feel like that would be like a life success for me to have kids that love each other and are there for each other for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's always the question of how much can you control of that? Because every kid, every person is so unique. And of course, all siblings fight. Especially like I have an older sister. We fought a good amount growing up, and then when she went away to college, I almost feel like we got closer because all of a sudden she wasn't there anymore.
Mhm.
And then when I had kids, because I had kids first, and she's a big kid person. She just loves kids. We got way closer because now she was coming over all the time to see the kids, and so it seems like one of those things that like even though they may fight while they're young, the fact that they're just in their lives, in each other's lives for the rest of their lives, as opposed to most friends who come and go, you
Yep.
know, not in a bad way, but like, you know, you had
Yep.
different friends when you're in high school and middle school versus now. And so, but your siblings, you know, they're always, hopefully always going to be there. And you know, as long as you're putting family first and showing that that's an important value, I'm sure that that'll come through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, right now, that's kind of what's going on in my head, right? I think it's funny. We are having a very difficult time with names.
Yeah.
With Mia, it was like fast. I mean, it was like two, but it was really like one. And
Hmm.
now I don't even remember what's on the list. Do we even have a list? Like, we are not, we are so engrossed in daily life right now
Hmm.
between two demanding careers, raising, a 2-year old, and just the craziness of life. Like, haven't even had a chance to give it like a proper conversation in a while. So we're gonna have to have that dialogue soon. So son, don't worry, man. Well, we won't leave you unnamed, I promise. But
Did you ask Mia what she thinks, if give
yeah,
her
she
input?
wants to name a JJ after Coco Melon.
Okay, well that's
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 a start.
I think my kids recommended poopy or something like that.
So that's kind of where we're at there. But I think what's definitely gives me comfort in just in general is you know I don't know what it is about the way my mindset is or who I am as an individual, but like I always think if I'm not here, how are things going to operate, right? I
Yeah,
don't know if it's
yeah.
just the protector aspect of who I am, but like I know that the planning we've done so far, we're going to be fine from a
Hmm.
financial
Yeah.
standpoint. No matter what, things are going to operate the way that they need to. We'll think about, do we utilize college savings plans or not? Like how, all those options will kind of come about. But in general, like at this current moment, I'm grateful that that side of the house is already taken care of. So now I can think about things that are less rational or stressful
Sure,
for no
sure. Yeah, yeah.
reason, or the
It,
sort of fun things, I would say, is really where I have a lot of my attention right now.
you know, it could be an interesting exercise. You know how we talked about in the past, other actually on that legacy podcast, which if you haven't listened to it, it really was a good one. Go listen to it. But um, writing, you know, we've talked about writing a future letter to yourself. Write a future letter to your future kids, or a letter to your future kids, like that. I
Yeah.
think that's because that'll, first of all, it'll take some time, I'm sure, but that'll really help, you know, specify in your heads, like in your head, what do you care about? What are some action items? What do you hope for them? And then if, you know, something happens, they have that.
Yeah, I,
But
lo-
what,
I love I love that because I feel like I don't know if this is just my household or many, but I'm not sure how well parents communicate with their kids what their lives were like before they were here. Like I don't
uh,
really know
mhm.
what was going on with my parents before they had me, or what was the topic of the day, or what were they talking about, or what were their friends like, or like I don't know. I have no idea. And again, this could be unique to my household or not, but um I'd like my kids to know what life was like pre them,
They'll probably be interested in that in 20, 30 years, not anytime soon. But
totally.
you know, they'll definitely be, there'll be this podcast they could listen to. There'll be lots of like a lot more pictures, videos than we had of our parents and grandparents, which I've thought about is pretty cool.
Definitely. So listen, this is again, this will be something that I'll probably listen back to and be like, this podcast was 100% for me. I mean, again, I'm sure the audience will find some useful things from it. But anything in particular as we kind of like wrap this up, what you think, um, or what you would give me as brotherly advice going into this second kid? Like, what do you think I should be thinking about, or focused on, or make sure I don't miss out on?
Unsurprisingly, like for all of my three kids, I remember it very vividly, like yesterday, sitting in the hospital rooms, and the moment that my kids came out of my wife, that moment, that like 1 to 3 seconds, literally took my breath away each time. So even though I experienced it, 1, 2, 3 times, it literally took my breath away. Like I just each time I was blown away by Lori, and just like how incredible and powerful she was to go through that, and it made us so much closer. Um, and so kids are hard, having if you have one kid, you think it's hard, and then you have two kids, and you realize 2 kids is harder, and then you have 3 kids, and 3 kids is harder. But it's as hard as it can be. There are so many times that it makes it so worth it. That being one, like it's actually being there to witness your kid being
Mm,
born. And then life's a journey, right? And so there's going to be lots of frustrations, a lot of sleepless nights, arguments between you and your spouse, and it just remember that it's a journey. Think of the long term, and you just don't think too much about yourself.
for
Think
sure.
of think of what can I do to help Joanna? What can I do to help Mia? Because a lot of times, especially if you're going to have a kid, like Joanna is probably going to take the bulk of that for the first week, 2 weeks, months, 20 years. And so that's your opportunity to like get a little closer with Mia, and like, give her some attention where Joanna has given the baby boy some
Yeah.
attention.
No, that's great advice. It's definitely been on my mind, but I appreciate the reminder because it is definitely a focus of mine. So, um, listen to the listening audience. Thanks for sitting in on a conversation between friends on a pretty important topic. But hopefully you found it to be super valuable. I definitely did, and we'll see you on the other side of this second child. And as always, please click subscribe below to be notified when we have another episode.
I look forward to hearing the baby's name.
I man, me too.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you as always, Evan. Thanks for the conversation and partnership. It's been awesome.
My pleasure.